Infor is one of the leading ERP products in the market today, and there's pros and cons and strengths and weaknesses of the product, just like any other solution in the marketplace. And today we want to dive into some of those strengths and weaknesses and talk about what you should be thinking about as you consider Infor for your digital transformation. My name is Eric Kimberling. I'm the CEO of Third Stage Consulting, and I'm here with Brad Spaits, the president of Guide Technologies. Brad, thanks for being here today.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you for the opportunity.
Sure, absolutely. Well, so Brad, you've been in this space for a long time. You've been in the Infor ecosystem for a long time, and really wanted to use this as an opportunity to really just get your insights as to what you're seeing in the market, and just so we have a discussion around what some of the ups and downs and pros and cons of the Infor ecosystem are. And one of the recent articles that we had published around Infor was around the departure of Charles Phillips and what that means to the future of Infor as a company, but more importantly as a product. What are you seeing just being in the space, and what's your opinion on how the transition at the top has affected Infor?
Yeah, well, thank you very much. Charles was a great leader for Infor, really strong on product and product innovation and building the business. A few months ago, he's still now CEO or chairman of the board, but Kevin Samuelson is now taken over. And Kevin has a little different background, a little bit different focus. And I think one of the things that he brings to the table is they're looking at Infor from a business standpoint, and really trying to refocus in on their ERP cloud suites and their core lines of businesses, and really reinvest and really focus on their functionality, capability, and what they can deliver to a customer. So kind of a little change in focus, but re-emphasizing the core ERPs and the core cloud suite solutions.
Yeah, great. And that's always important. I know potential buyers of software are looking at how much R&D is going into the product and what's the future viability of the product and the company supporting it. So that's all important stuff.
The other big change that we had talked about was just a couple weeks ago. Koch Industries acquired the remaining shares of Infor. They had previously made two large-scale investments into Infor, owned over 50% of it at the time, and then as of probably 2 weeks ago, they completed the acquisition, 100% ownership of Infor. Valuation, depending on the preferred shares, and that about $11 to $13 billion. So it's a very big investment for Koch Industries, and it really brings Infor to 100% ownership by Koch Industries. That's view that as also a positive. I think as people have been listening and hearing on the street over the last couple of years that Infor was potentially positioning for an IPO. I think companies that position for an IPO do things to position themselves for an IPO. I think at this point now, what the acquisition is by the Koch Industries is probably less focused on any IPO discussions, and really on what will Koch be doing with Infor. And I think that the good news is that Koch has deep pockets. They've got a lot of money. That's a good thing when you're in a growing software business with some really key strategic platforms and cloud suites. I think one of the things, if you look at, and I don't have firsthand knowledge of what the Koch is looking to do, but I think it's interesting that they already owned over 50% of Infor prior to this last acquisition, and now they go in and they buy the remaining shares. So they already had controlling interest in Infor, so that must mean they view Infor as a good long-term strategic investment. I think you look at what the Koch Industries do is they reinvest in their products, reinvest in their product lines. And I think that's a good thing for Infor. And I also think they look at streamlining their internal processes and improving their efficiencies, which also should be a good thing for Infor and their customers. So I guess I view the Koch acquisition as a positive, and we'll see what happens over the next months and years.
Right. Yeah. It's a company that's investing that much money and had the option to not invest the remaining 40%, tells you that they must have a certain amount of confidence in the product in the future and the direction and the strategy of the company.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's that's new information too. That Koch investment is something that was that news came out after we had published our top 10 list, after we
Yeah.
had published an article about questions about the leadership at Infor and that sort of thing. So that's an interesting direction or knowledge to have. It certainly is a good indicator of where you guys are headed, or where Infor is headed, I should say.
And I've talked to quite a few people and read quite a few industry articles about what's next. Yeah, there's no crystal ball, but I do like the basics of what Koch can bring to the business, and we'll just see.
Sure. Now another product roadmap type of question, or getting down to the details of the product roadmap. One thing that we've noticed is, as independent consultants, we're not affiliated with Infor or with you guys at Guide, but we're independent consultants that help clients through their process. And one of the things we notice is that, in the US, it feels like CloudSuite has been largely the focus in recent months and years, although we still see Syteline and M3 and other some of the legacy products still being offered up. And then when we look to our London office in the UK and Europe, for example, what they're seeing there apparently is just more M3 focus from the ecosystem and less CloudSuite. So that has led us as a company to be a little uncertain as to kind of what is that roadmap, where's the real focus, how far along are they in the transition to the cloud, all those kind of questions. But you have a front row seat being an Infor VAR. So I just want to get your perspective on, what that roadmap is and how you see it in the future.
Yeah, thank you. I think what's unique about Infor is that they have multiple roadmaps. They don't have just one. And I think so. They have they by design they have gone out and have cloud suites and industry ERP solutions designed for specific industries, such as CloudSuite Automotive, CloudSuite Aerospace and Defense, CloudSuite Food, Beverage, and Chemical, CloudSuite Industrial, and others. So it's in each one of those solutions has their own product roadmap. So it's they don't have just one product that they sell to all industries. They have multiple products they sell to very specific industries with very specific functionality that's built out for that industry. Are there overlaps? Yeah. There's a lot of manufacturing companies that have some of this, some of that, some hybrid manufacturing. So I think in some situations, Infor and channel partners like Guide will have to understand the customer's requirements and make a decision and a recommendation on which one of the Infor solutions best fits their needs. Because there's more than one discrete, there's more than one process manufacturing, but they all have different design points and focal points for size, geography, functional fit, and price and budget. So long answer, there isn't one roadmap. Each one of the core cloud suites and ERPs has their own roadmap, and so there are multiple products that Infor sells and really targeted by industry.
Sure. Okay, great. And that's an important point to distinguish, because a lot of vendors are forcing products to one, or forcing customers to one direction or to one product. So for example, SAP forcing customers onto S/4HANA used to be by 2025. Now they're saying by 2030. Does Infor have any plans that you know of to force everyone to CloudSuite or to force anyone to one of those products over time?
No, no forced march. And I think if you look at Infor's record and their roadmaps for each one of their products, they have stated direction. I believe that they will support a product for 7 years since they're from the current release. So that's a pretty long time, and very few products I've seen have been sunsetted. Now, obviously, some of those products aren't getting the investment dollars in the enhancements, and so Infor is positioning some of their key ERP solutions to be the landing point, or the landing point for some of the older legacy products. but at this point, there's no forced march, and there are some incentives and some offerings depending on what solution you have and where you're going to move to an Infor, to a more current and go forward Infor solution.
Sure, that's good. Now, what about, I don't want to get into a deep technical architecture discussion by any means, but just in general, if we look at the direction that CloudSuite is going, one of the perception points or one of the feedback I've heard from some of our consultants and team members is that they get the perception that the CloudSuite is simply moving software and functionality from on-premise to the cloud without, completely overhauling it like a lot of the vendors have.
Yeah.
And again, this is just perception. This is us not knowing how the software is baked or anything like that.
Yeah.
What is your take on that, or how would you describe that?
It's a lot more involved than that. Every Infor product that's going to the cloud is going through and has gone through an extreme, and this is over the last couple of years, a huge security analysis and security audit. Because really, when you go to the cloud, in most people's mind, the number one issue, number one concern that a lot of people have is security. And so every single ERP that's being moved to the cloud has been reviewed and in many cases re-architected to minimize the risk of going to the cloud and to the internet. And so that's one area. And then the other area is a lot of the solutions were on-premise solutions, not multi-tenant. And so a couple key design points for moving to the cloud, besides security, is making a multi-tenant capable. So that requires a fair amount of redesign, re-engineering, and recoding in some cases. And the other is that it's all browser-based. And so they really need to make sure that their performance and their capabilities in the cloud or over the web are perform well over the web. So they're taking maybe the core business process capabilities, but from a technology and an architectural standpoint, and it was a whole lot of investment that's required for each one of the ERPs to get them cloud ready and supported in the cloud and performing in the cloud.
Right.
And a good example, CloudSuite Industrial, which used to be the Syteline product, they rebranded that as CloudSuite Industrial, and CloudSuite Industrial can be sold on-premise, and it can be sold in a multi-tenant cloud, and it's the same code base. And so they've really spent a lot of time and energy, not only for CloudSuite Industrial, but all the products to get them ready for the cloud.
That's very helpful, and that's also a unique approach. That's not, you don't see a lot of vendors taking that approach with that flexibility and really giving customers a number of different options, which I think, in my opinion, is something that's lacking in the industry right now. It's something I've been highly critical of, is the kind of the forcing the customers in one direction because it's what the vendor wants versus what the customers might need.
Even to the point now where you can have a hybrid implementation, some on-prem with some cloud. Depending on the capabilities in the deployment option you choose. Right.
Now, I think I know the answer to this question, or at least the first part of this question. We'll ask it anyway. So we had recently published our top 10 report. We published the top 10 ERP systems overall, and then we also published a top 10 list for the manufacturing industry. And we had Infor ranked in the top 10, but it was in the lower part of the top 10 in both lists. I guess the question would be, do you agree with that ranking? And if not, how would you say what would you say would be the strengths of the Infor product suite compared to your peers or other competitors in the marketplace?
Okay. First of all, your top 10s have a pretty good variety of different kinds of ERP vendors, from SAP, Oracle, NetSuite, Workday, Salesforce.com, and so forth. And so I guess kind of like the Infor Cloud Suites, each one of those maybe targets a different kind of customer and a different kind of solution or a different type of buying criteria. I mean, obviously we do compete, but there's a good variety and mix in your ERPs. And quite honestly, if I'm in a ERP competitive opportunity with Salesforce, then somebody's in the wrong game. I mean, that's I don't take any issue with your list. That's based on your consulting and your efforts and your experience and so forth. I just think from my perspective, we're an Infor channel partner, and we really believe strongly in the Infor direction and the Infor CloudSuite. And so that's really, we're very comfortable and very confident in our capabilities in that, if we're in the right kind of customer or prospect. If we're not in the right kind of customer prospect, then we should get out and maybe actually recommend one of the others that are in the top 10. So I won't take exception. I think what I feel strongly about from the Infor CloudSuite perspective is it's a very broad but very deep manufacturing solution. A lot of the solutions are really more technology solutions with lighter functionality and definitely lighter manufacturing functionality. But I think the CloudSuite Industrial is a very broad solution, from anywhere from CRM to quoting and product configuration to financials to shop floor data collection and planning and all that kind of stuff. But it has very deep functionality, and it's in the manufacturing sector. That's because the roots of the CloudSuite Industrial is the Syteline product, which has been around for probably close to 30 years. There's a lot of manufacturing process, a lot of manufacturing functionality built in that product. I think with the redesign and re-engineering to give the customer a choice of deployment options, on-prem, hybrid, or cloud, that gives the customer a lot of benefit to kind of go the way that they want to go with their deployment options. And again, as I said earlier, it's the same code base from on-prem to the cloud. So from a functional standpoint, you just how do you want it to deploy it type of thing. I think one of the things, the other key differentiator I think with Infor is, I think Infor is known for their customer support, with their extreme support, and I think that's one of the core strengths of Infor, and also CloudSuite is the support that you get from Infor is outstanding. And so I think there's a lot of good functional capabilities, a lot of good technology. If we're a good fit, then I like our chances, and I think we'll have an excellent solution for a customer. And Infor is really doing a lot in the terms of R&D and continuing to develop these products, deploy these products and support these products.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's a good overview, consistent with our understanding of some of the strengths of the product suite. What about in terms of the ideal customer? If you pick the ideal customer that you feel like is going to get the most value out of the Infor product suite, how would you describe that? I know that's difficult to do because you have a broad product suite, but what does that typically look like?
Yeah, if I look at like CloudSuite Industrial, for example, that's kind of the go forward new customer discrete manufacturing solution. And I did say that it would typically fits in this SMB world. That can be defined in a couple different ways. Broadly, maybe 10 million in revenues to $1 billion in revenues. Probably sweet spot, probably 15-20 million in revenues to $500 million in revenues. Single site, multi-site. If people are making assemble to order, build to order, make to stock, really all kinds of hybrid manufacturing, we have an outstanding configurator. So anybody that's making a product, a discrete product, particularly out of metal or wood, we fit very well in those marketplaces.
Yeah, great. And that's consistent with what we've seen too. We see Infor, one of its products, in a lot of manufacturing clients that we work with, especially in the middle market. It seems to be really the sweet spot, at least from our perspective as well.
Yes.
It's very consistent. So I think we can both agree, and in most in the industry, I think we'd agree that Infor has a decent set of products, and especially if you're in the manufacturing space, there's probably a product that'll fit your needs within the Infor suite. But the product is only one part of it. The other part of it that you could argue is even more important than the actual choice of product is the implementation itself, and that's what you guys do. So what are you seeing? What are you guys doing at Guide Technologies to make your implementation successful for customers, or more successful than perhaps your peers or other VARs that are out there?
Mhm. Yeah, and I think that is one of the strengths of Guide Technologies is our implementation capabilities, and it really kind of starts with getting to know the customer or the prospect very well, and then going through. We have a fairly structured implementation methodology that really kind of starts with discovery and moves through a solution design and build phase on the implementation. So we're looking at the current state of the customer. We've got to take that into account. What are they doing now? What's working? What's not working? Then also we have to take a look at with the customer and look at a future state, and really have a good understanding of what they're doing now and what they want to do and what they're capable of doing in the future, and then making recommendations as far as implementations, customizations. There's a lot you can do the software without you modifying it. It's just how you set it up and tailor it to the customer requirements. So that's, in a nutshell, is really, really understanding what they're doing, what they want to do, and then taking them to where they want to go, and help, maybe in some cases showing them where they could go. Some customers, they may not understand what is all possible in a fully integrated, full function ERP solution. So there's some education from that standpoint. Don't just settle for what you're doing now. We really actually want to do it better in the future.
Right.
I think a couple other things that are important is that, we have that very structured methodology. We have tremendous skills and experience on our staff, and they're not. And I say experience, they're knowledgeable in technology, but they're application and process specialists. Our manufacturing consultants know MRP, cost roll up, inventory, cycle counting, all that kind of thing. So they're not techies implementing manufacturing software. They're manufacturing software consultants that understand the technology that they're using.
Yeah. And that's exactly, by the way, that's exactly how I describe your team, just having worked with you guys in the past and been involved with some joint implementations. Just, it seems like you feel like you're talking to someone that really knows manufacturing. They also understand technology, but it's more, it seems like it's more of a focus on manufacturing first, which I think is a big strength.
Two other things that are important is that we really have to have and we insist on executive sponsorship, because an ERP implementation is not going to go anywhere good without executive sponsorship and ownership of that project. Because it's not an IT project. It's a business solution, and the business line of business needs to be involved in driving this, not IT. And then we have to have buy-in from the rank and file as well. But we really need a stated direction from the executives and executive commitment, and then buy-in from the rest of the team to actually implement this as a business solution, not an IT project.
Yep. It's refreshing to hear that. It's easy to get tangled up in the technology and forget what you're trying to actually accomplish within your organization. So it's good focus. So that's a bit about how Guide approaches technology, or how Guide approaches implementations, and how that might be a bit different than some of your peers. What about geographic focus? If someone's considering an Infor VAR, where might it be a good fit, either geographically or industry wide?
Yeah, Guide Technology covers in North America, so coast to coast, border to border. Again, we really focus on the discrete manufacturing in general terms, but also some verticals such as aerospace and defense, automotive, industrial equipment and machinery, and medical device manufacturing. So those are really the kind of the sub verticals besides discrete manufacturing that we really focus on. And again, I said, probably this, sweet spot, 10-15 million in sales for a manufacturer to $500 million, single site, multi-site. So those are really the key markets that we go after.
Right. Yeah. Good. Makes sense. Well, anything else you'd want to add to the conversation, or anything else you'd throw in based on what we've talked about so far?
No. I think, I liked your top 10, and I think it's good. I learned a lot reading through your the white papers and so forth. But I think, every ERP solution, if you're in the right fit, if we, for our ERP solutions, if we have a good fit, very confident that we can deliver a good solution to the customer, cost competitive, and with providing value to the customer.
Good. Absolutely. Well, Brad, I appreciate you being here today. That's a helpful conversation, and always learn something new every time I talk to you guys, and interesting to hear where you guys are headed or where Infor is headed as well. And I appreciate you being here today.
Okay. Thank you very much, Eric.
All right. Thank you, Brad. We've included our contact information for both Brad and I below if you'd like to reach us. I've included our email contact information below. Also encourage you to please like the video if you like it and subscribe to my channel. And I'd love to hear any comments you have below as well. So if you have experience with any of the Infor products, or you've compared Infor to other products and you have feedback, we'd love to hear your comments below. So thanks everyone for joining, and hope you have a great day.